What's going on, guys? I'm back at the range today to do a video I'm sure you guys are tired of seeing at this point. You always can tell when it's slow in the firearm industry because everybody does top 5 videos. Top 5 rifles, top 5 pistols, top 5 subguns, whatever it is. People do top 5s and top 10s just to make content because there's really not a whole lot going on. And I was like, you know what? Should I make one of these? What the hell? Why not? So I'm gonna make today my top 5 revolver picks. Now these are gonna be my top 5 of revolvers that I actually own. We're gonna take a look at them, take a couple shots. But there is gonna be some honorable mentions in there, ones that I would definitely have on my list that I just don't have at this point, but one day plan on having. So maybe there'll be an update video to this, who knows how long in the future. All right, so the thing about making this video is I debated over, is it top 5, is it top 10, you know, somewhere in between, I don't know, because if you follow me on Instagram or have seen a bunch of my videos, you know that I am a wheel gun guy. I love and appreciate a good wheel gun. There's something just about them. They're just classic, iconic, beautifully made, just everything about a revolver is really cool to me. So I have a few of them. So it was really hard to narrow this down to 5, to only 5, because every one I have I love for different reasons and they do different things. So I've got 6 here today because I didn't know how to bring it down to just 5. So let's kick it off. My number 6 pick in the top 5 video is the Smith & Wesson 500. Now the Smith & Wesson 500, I don't know what year it was released, but when it was released, I knew I had to have one of these at one point because it's the most powerful handgun in the world, right? Smith & Wesson 500, no other cartridge at the time was more powerful than the Smith & Wesson 500 shot out of a revolver. So why not have the most powerful handgun in the world, right? As Dirty Harry would say. So the one I've got, and the one you've seen in my IG, is the 4-inch shorted barrel version. Sure, I could have went with the big, long, I don't know, 8 or 10-inch one, whatever they make. Reduces recoil, it's big, it's obnoxious, it just looks cool, right? But I don't know, there was something about that small, stubby look of a 4-inch with the compensator that just really lended well to that design. It's compact, it's short, it's thick, it's a big boy. It just looked really nice. And of course, had to go with an inside the waistband Kydex holster because why not appendix carry a Smith & Wesson 500 just in case a bear happens in to anywhere you are, you've got the firepower to put that thing down. Not only that, but blow out yours and everybody else's eardrums in the vicinity because that's what would happen. But at least you're safe from the bear. The Kydex holster is in fact made by Custom Holster Solutions. You know I follow those guys, you know I showcase their work. They made great stuff, custom local shop to me. They do a great job, guys. Check those out. Their Instagram link will be below. So the number 5 pick in the top 5 revolver video is none other than my BFR 4570. BFR, this gun holds a special place in my heart because I've always loved the look of a large scoped revolver. Something about them. I don't hunt, I'm not gonna use it for hunting, but something about having a big old revolver with a big old scope on it. I've seen it in movies, you've seen them in movies. It's just something that looked so cool and I wanted to kind of customize a big revolver like that and have it in some sort of holster. So you'll see I have it in this leather chest rig, which I had custom cut out to accept the scope because otherwise it wouldn't fit with the scope rig in there. But this thing shooting a 4570, man, packs a wallop, even using trapdoor safe stuff. This is a gun that's big, it's heavy, it absorbs all that recoil, but you'll see shooting it here, even using trapdoor safe, and I'm using all Stenell ammo in that 4570, it still packs a wallop, even just with those low recoil loads. Woo! So next up at number 4, it's a hard choice. It's really hard to rank these guys, but is my newly acquired 1847 Colt Walker reproduction. Now this gun is brought in by Taylor's & Company. If you don't know who Taylor's & Company is, they do the Lord's work. They bring in Piettas, they bring in Ubertis, they make their own stuff. They specialize in single action cowboy type rifles and revolvers. Black powder, center fire, all of the things, all of the cool cowboy stuff you've seen on history channels, movies, cowboy movies, in the gun world, whatever you've seen, if you're into it, you should know about Taylor's & Co. This is a beautiful, beautiful pistol. I love the open top look of it. It's just that old school, mid-1800s frontier black powder revolver. Now, I am not into black powder at all at this point. Black powder is not my thing. But the cool thing about a lot of those black powder pistols that they offer is they offer the center fire cylinder conversions. So, for a couple more bucks, you can get a 45 Colt cylinder conversion to get rid of that black powder cylinder and load in some center fire stuff and really have some fun with it, not worry about all the intricacies and things going on with black powder. So I love that about these guns, and that you can do that, and it just has that old look. I love it. It's a heavy gun, long barrel. It absorbs a lot of the recoil. 45 Colt, especially if you're using cowboy loads, doesn't pack a lot of recoil anyway, but it's still so fun to shoot. I don't know. Cowboy stuff, man. You know, I talk about being a cowboy. I wish I was a cowboy. And this just kind of lends to that feel, that look, that cavalry 1800 stuff, man. It's just cool stuff. So before I move on to number 3, I gotta add in the honorable mentions of the revolvers that I don't personally own yet, but are definitely in my top 5 all-time favorite revolvers. First up, there's gonna be 2. First up is gonna be the Smith & Wesson Model 29. Model 29 is, of course, the Dirty Harry 44 Magnum, 8-inch-ish barrel or so, just the long barrel one, the most powerful handgun in the world, Dirty Harry. Just an iconic movie gun, iconic gun in the gun history, the most powerful handgun in the world at the time, 44 Magnum. Just something to behold, a piece of firearms history, and something that I would love to have in my collection one day. The other honorable mention is certainly in my top 5, is the Colt Python. But not just any Colt Python, the 6-inch stainless Colt Python. You're probably thinking, oh, that sounds familiar. Yeah, Walking Dead. Yes, The Walking Dead, when that show premiered, still into guns at that time, still had a love for and appreciation for wheel guns, but that Colt Python is what turned me on to Colt Pythons. I wasn't huge into wheel guns at the time, but seeing that gun, it just looked different. The rib top strap, that stainless look. Blued finishes are great on revolvers too, but something about a stainless revolver and that 6-inch barrel of the Colt Python really does it for me. After that show came out, you know, Colt Python, original Colt Pythons, you know, from the 70s and 80s, are just had skyrocketed in price. See, your people are paying $4,000 or $5,000 for a Colt Python. Definitely not worth that amount of money, but because of the show, drove the prices up because everybody wanted one. Then finally, you know, fast forward some years later, Colt then re-released the Colt Python in their new production. Haven't got one of those yet. Would love to have one. I don't need to have an old original one. It's just the thought, and owning a Colt Python is what does it for me. I would probably, owning one, I would probably swap out the grip panels to the original, like 1970s, 1980s style grip panels, just because it gives it that look. I like that original wood look to it, other than the ones that they offer. And from what I understand, they can take the old grips. So, honorable mention there for sure. My top 5, if I owned it, I would add them in, but honorable mentions nonetheless. The number 3 choice, you've seen it featured on my channel on Instagram, not YouTube, but is my Ruger GP100. The Ruger GP100 line and the Ruger Super Red Hawk are, from what I understand, the 2 most robustly built revolvers ever made, production guns. They are overbuilt. I don't know all the details about the intricacies of what's overbuilt about it. From what I understand from a guy I learned a bit from in the revolver world, is the locking lug setup, everything that they've used in that. It's a multiple point locking setup, which other revolvers don't use, from what I understand. It's just really robustly built. 357 Magnum, 44 Magnum in those guns. They can take thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds of Magnum, high pressure Magnum loads, and still keep on going, where other guns, other manufacturers can take a beating over time with Magnum loads. So I understand people love Smith guns. I love Smith revolvers, but there's an appreciation and love for Ruger revolvers as well. They do different things. They have a different look. The GP100 to me is one of my favorite revolvers. You've seen it featured. I put the special little grip inserts in there. There's a company out there called LS Grips, and they make a lot of cool grips for Ruger GP100s and Super Red Hawks and those. It's a really cool feature. You can customize it, make it your own, and I just love it. Another part about it that I love is I got a cool shoulder rig for it. That same guy I was telling you about, my buddy James, big revolver guy. He's a gunsmith. He makes his own revolvers, does a lot of custom work. And he had an extra shoulder holster that he wasn't using that fit the Ruger perfectly. And that's what I use to carry that thing. It's something about that classic shoulder holster look and feel like you're like that old, like 1980s, 1970s cop, you know, shoulder holster pulled out, big old revolver. Something about that is just cool and something that I really love in my collection. Now the number 2 guns are split. It's 2 guns in the number 2 spot, and I did that, and I'll explain to you why. The first revolver I ever bought was my Smith & Wesson Model 60. Model 60 is a J-frame, 2 1/4, 2 1/8 inch snub nose 357 revolver. This one is the Lady Smith, and what makes it a Lady Smith is it's engraved Lady Smith on the side, but it was marketed to females. It had an extended, you know, really nice rubberized grip to it, so easier to hold on to, easier for females, ladies to carry. It was marketed towards females. But I found that many years ago, used at a shop. It was a good price, and it was my first revolver, and the first gun I ever carried was that J-frame Model 60 357 snub nose in the appendix. And believe it or not, if you're into holsters and know the history of Kydex holsters, I'm from the Philly area, a company called Filster. John at Filster Holsters, when he was still in Philly, way back in the day, he was, I think, the only guy at the time, one, kind of pioneering custom Kydex holsters and Kydex holsters in general. And at the time, you had to like go to him to have these holsters made. He had some stocked and everything, but you could buy it, he would ship to you. But if you wanted something custom or something that he didn't offer, you had to go to him. So I went to him and he custom made me this J-frame Kydex holster. It's awesome. It was what I carried for years. So it holds a nice special place in my heart. In the number 2 spot as the first revolver I ever bought and the first one that I ever carried. So 357 Magnum, can't beat it. Snub nose J-frame Smith & Wesson. Sharing the number 2 spot is my super classic Smith Model 36. Model 36 just has an iconic shape to it. Square butt, skinny wood grips, blued finish, 38 special only. This thing is like the epitome of backup revolvers, your backup gun, the ankle holster gun, small the back gun. This is the gun. Now, mind you, this is a no dash 36. So this is original 1960s Model 36 Smith. And boy, man, you just got to appreciate a revolver. It just looks so good. Of course, I've picked it up used, who knows how long ago. And this thing, it's great. I've used this so many times as a backup just for fun. I tried the whole ankle holster thing. I couldn't get with that. It was too heavy. I don't know. I just didn't like walking around feeling that weight on my ankle. But main carrying a polymer, compact or mid-size gun, appendix, then putting that snub nose in the back, that like 4 or 5 o'clock position in the small of the back, it just feels cool. Like it just like shit hits the fan, something happens, something crazy, your main primary carry goes down for whatever reason, you're out of ammo, you got that 5 shots of 38 special as a backup if you need it. I don't know, just something really cool about old Smiths, old revolvers, and just the look and the history of those things is just awesome. I love it. So that's why it's sharing the number 2 spot with my first revolver I ever bought, because I just feel like they're both sort of in that same class of snub nose, cool revolvers. All right, guys, here we are finally, the number 1 spot. This was a really hard list to make. I have other revolvers I left out, and it was a fight. I was fighting with myself here, and I'm like, why am I leaving this one out? Why am I putting this one in? So top 5 was definitely hard, but the one in my number 1 spot may or may not be a surprise is my Taylor & Co. Smoke Wagon. Now, I love a single action revolver. I wish I was a cowboy. So this is the first single action I ever bought many, many years ago. The Smoke Wagon, it's Taylor tuned, and what that means is they have all these different model single actions, right? The Smoke Wagon is cool, you can get a different barrel lengths. The Taylor tuned one is tuned from Taylor's, and they're master gunsmiths. They lighten the action, they smoothen the action, so the hammer pull, the trigger pull is much improved over just the factory version. And it just is a gun, man. It is a sweet shooter. Of course, I have the old cowboy style holster for this rig. It's just something, man. I love it. The first ever cowboy gun single action I ever owned. The first, Western style holster I ever owned that goes along with this gun. Being a tuned gun, just feeling like a cowboy, shooting from the hip and smacking that hammer back. Speed shooting, it just is something cool. I'm shooting it in 45 Colt. Pretty much every cowboy gun I get, I gotta have it in 45 Colt. I don't like them in 357. I just think it's not accurate for a cowboy time period. So I just like in 45 Colt. Some people say 4440, you gotta get a 4440. No, because 4440 is just hard ammo to find. It's expensive. I don't want to be, you know, kept in that box of only being able to shoot it here and there, because 4440 is just impossible to find. So I get everything in 45 Colt. It's still expensive to shoot, but much more available than a 4440. And I'll say it again, guys, Taylor & Co. makes some great stuff. The Smoke Wagon 1873 model is just an iconic piece of cowboy firearms revolver history. So it's cool, the Smoke Wagon, you know, Tombstone movie, you gotta skin that Smoke Wagon, whole thing. It's just, man, I don't know. It's cool stuff. That's top 5. My top 5 as of right now. I've got other revolvers. Couldn't fit in. Maybe we'll update this down the line. But for now, this is the top 5 revolver picks by me. Let me know what your favorite is of these top 5s in the comments below. And guys, don't forget Steve MP5 on the Instagrams. I'll see you next time.